Google improved almost everything on the brand new Pixel 11 this year. We're talking about a new camera sensor, a new chip, an AI system that is built to work without you opening a single app. So the real question isn't whether the Pixel 11 improved, it is how many of these upgrades the S26 still can't match. We're talking about the design, the display, the camera, battery life, and AI features. That is my breakdown for today. Starting with the design, because I think this is very, very important. It is what you look at every single day and more or less reminds you if whatever phone you got was the right choice. And this is where these two companies make very opposite decisions. So the Pixel 11 gets an all-glass camera bar that spans the entire width of the phone. It is 40% thinner than the last year's Pixel 9, and the whole thing is built to handle splashes, scratches, and drops to the floor. And more than that, it's wrapped in a polished Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 back with a satin finish and aluminum frame. There are new colors as well. We have frost, hibiscus, pistachio, and obsidian, and the aluminum in the housing is 100% recycled material, and Google is leaning very hard into sustainability messaging across the whole build. Now the S26's big design move this year was shifting its rear camera sensor onto an island that is similar to what Samsung did on the Z Fold 7. Beyond that, it is basically the same phone as last year. Now, based on this comparison so far, it seems very obvious to me that both phones are on the same level. But if I'm going to go with what I like, the Pixel design is my choice, hands down. Okay, next up is the display, and it is closer than you would expect on paper, but there is a real gap once you look past the numbers. Both phones sit at 6.3 inches, and the resolution is nearly identical, 1080 by 2424 on the Pixel 11 with a 422 pixels per inch density to 1080 by 2340 on the Galaxy S26, landing in the same general range. Now, where they actually split is the refresh rates behavior and the brightness. Now, the S26 runs a full 120Hz to 1Hz range on its dynamic AMOLED 2X panel, meaning that the display can drop all the way down to 1 Hz to save battery when it's just showing static content. The Pixel 11 is capped at 60 to 120 Hz, and that true ultra low refresh rate mode is reserved for the Pro XL, and the Fold for the first time, and not the base model. On brightness, the Pixel 11 has 2000 nits of peak brightness for HDR content and up to 3000 nits of peak brightness confirmed. The S26 has a peak brightness of 2600, but if I'm being honest, there's not much of a difference in my daily use between this and when I tested out the Pixel 11. And one more thing worth mentioning is the security and durability. Both phones carry an IP68 rating for water and dust resistance, and both use an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor alongside with Face Unlock. So which display is better? Honestly, both have their strengths. The Pixel has a brighter display and is great for HDR content. The S26 has an edge here with slimmer bezels, plus a dynamic refresh rate that goes from 1 to 120 Hz. So when it comes to the camera, I took a ton of pictures when I went to test out the device, but unfortunately I am not allowed to show you till like August 19th, I think. But I can tell you what the Pixel has. Now, the main sensor was built entirely. You get a new 48 megapixel wide camera at f1.7 on a 1/1.56 inch sensor with a claimed 56% more light sensitivity than the last generation. For comparison, the Galaxy S26 main camera is a 50 megapixel sensor at f1.8 on a nearly identical 1/1.56 inch sensor size. So on paper, the sensors are close in physical side. Now, the telephoto lens is where the real separation happens. The Pixel 11 packs a 10.8 megapixel telephoto camera with a 5x optical zoom on a 1/3.2 inch sensor, reaching up to 30x super zoom digitally. Now, the S26's telephoto is 10 megapixels but only reaches up to 3x optical zoom on a smaller 1/3.94 inch sensor. On video, the Pixel 11 shoots up to 4K at 60 frames per second with 10-bit HDR, cinematic pan, slow motion up to 240 frames per second, and multiple stabilization modes, including locked and active video stabilization. And we all know megapixels aren't everything, so we'll have a more in-depth video when the embargo is lifted. Battery is where the numbers actually surprised me once I put them side by side. The Pixel 11 packs a 4,985 milliamp hours of battery, and that charges up to 55% in 30 minutes with a compatible 30-watt charger, plus 25-watt Qi 2.2 wireless charging through the Pixel Snap magnetic system. The S26 has a 4,300 milliamp hours of battery with 25 watts wired charging and 15 watts wireless charging, and it goes from 0 to 100 in about 80 minutes. Samsung also didn't add the Qi tube magnets to the S26's back this generation, so you're stuck with a case if you want that magnetic charging convenience. While the Pixel 11's Pixel Snap system is built into the phone itself, I can't really tell you how long the battery life on the Pixel 11 will be because it is new, it has a different processor, and I don't have it enough to test it. However, when it comes to my Pixel 10's battery life, it actually lasted longer than it did in the first couple of months, and I don't think there will be a large difference in battery life between these two phones, but I still expect the Pixel 11 to outperform the S26, especially since the Pixel has better fast charging capabilities. Also, I should add that both phones now start at 256 gigs of storage with 12 gigs of RAM, so for once, neither company is trying to sell you a cramped base model. That fight actually is over in 2026. Everything else is where they split hard. Okay, while I was editing this video, I saw something that was absolutely incredible. So the entire Pixel 11 series has incredible discounts. So for example, the Pixel 11, which we're talking about today, it has a discount of $500, which brings it down from $899 to $399, which is absolutely incredible. Now, if you compare it to the S26, it is still $774 USD. So when Google wants to give discounts on their phones, it's usually during Black Friday or closer to Black Friday, but they're doing it on day one, which means they want a lot of people to buy the phones. I think it is proper genius stuff from them. But what do you guys think? Now let's talk about the AI features. The S26 now ships with 3 different voice assistants out of the box. For some reason, you have Gemini, Samsung's own Bixby, and a new addition, Perplexity, each with its own wake word, and you can only assign one to your side button shortcuts at a time, and it's been framed as an open multi-agent ecosystem, but in practice it just means that there are 3 separate AI systems competing for the same real estate on your phone, which doesn't make any sense. There's also scam detection and call screening, which are very good additions in 2026. They're good on Pixel, they're also good on Samsung. But the flagship feature Samsung actually is marketing the hardest, which is Now Nudge, is the one that falls apart the second you try to use it. So I think that Google and the Pixel wins this in a landslide. As you can see, these two phones are pretty close, but it's hard to say for sure which is better of the two. Now, I like the matte finish on the S26. I think the day-to-day performance should be more reliable than what you would get on a brand new Pixel 11 and Tensor. But the Pixel 11 has a bigger battery, a better design in my opinion, and is leading the AI initiative between Samsung and Google. And with everything else on this list, I think the Pixel 11 is the one that actually moved the needle the most. And we'll know in a few weeks once these phones are in people's hands and whether any of it holds up. And if you want to see the roundup of the Pixel devices, click right here. And if you want to see if Google actually fixed any of the problems that we talked about, click right here.